he says, I'm going to put cherubim and a flaming sword at the eastern gate, and these will be tests that if you can't pass them, you can't come back in. So what are they going to be tests of? Love. These are love tests, because we know that, because that's why they're being asked to leave. So I want to ask you a question, those of you who go to church. How many times did you go and hear a sermon by the priest about how to pass the test of the flaming sword and the cherubim? Did anyone ever hear that at a church service? Now, how interesting. God put those at the eastern gate in order for Adam and Eve to have to pass before they could enter back into the Garden of Eden. And I'm going to suggest to you that it's our failure to pass those two tests, which is why we still get angry in traffic.
So you started with Jampolsky, who wrote the book, Love is Letting Go of Fear.
Teach only love. Goodbye to guilt. Love is the answer. That was my teacher.
Love is letting go of fear, and that's where you ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
So, interestingly enough, guess what the Cathar have in their cards? The devil is holding a flaming sword. It's not so evident in this one, but in a lot of the other diagrams, it's a sword with a flame on the end. And the standard, which is the flag off the trumpet of Michael, is in fact the test of the cherubim. And we'll talk about that when we get there, but we're a long way from there. How are we going?
That's beautiful.
Have I lost anybody? No? All right. So, because Adam and Eve partook of the fruit, they created this sense of duality, and they've now moved into a place of differentiated consciousness. And therein, and then God says, now you're going to go to the earth, and you're going to have to sort it all out. And so there's a point at which Adam and Eve then have to move into human consciousness. And here's the mother. The Empress is the mother. She's giving birth. On the left part of her buttock is a zigzag called the zigzag of effulgence, which I think I'm probably the first person to write about that in the tarot community and reveal that piece of information, which was quite an ancient symbol for the idea of the birth of the fool for Christ. In other words, it's the birth of the fool as a potential for becoming the Christ. And so she's giving birth. Here we see the magician. So let's have a look at the magician. We'll come back then to the Empress. There's a veil that separates the Popess from the Empress. And she's looking through the veil. And that's the veil between the spirit world, the world of differentiated consciousness, and human consciousness. So the magician and the Popess aren't in the world. They're in the spirit world. The magician, I like to refer to him as a billboard. He's basically saying, I'm telling you what it is that you're about to experience. I'm a magician. I'm a trickster. I'm an illusionist. And what you're about to experience is a trick, is an illusion, and none of it's real. It's sleight of hand. We get to find out right from the very beginning what this is all about. Unfortunately, this veil is called the veil of forgetfulness. And when we pass through the veil, we forget the world of differentiation, the spirit world. Some people remember it. Little children remember it. they have these things about talking about another place. But for most of us, we don't remember. On her lap is the book of life. This is the book of lives. The Cathars were reincarnationists. And she's got, well, you've done this already, you're coming back to do this. But the magician's saying, but don't forget, all of this stuff's an illusion. In his right hand, he's got a wand, and he's saying, power is an illusion, because the wand represented power. In his other hand, he has a coin, and he says, wealth is an illusion. And on his table is cups that are about love, and he says, love is an illusion. Love as we relate to it in the illusion. And there's a sword which is about success or achievement, and success is an illusion. Fame is an illusion. All of these things are an illusion. But in the world of illusion, that's what you're going to be encountering and dealing with. So, the fool's born, his mother's there, then there's his father, the emperor, and they program him. Aristotle said, give me a boy until he was 7 and I'll give you the man. By the age of 7, we've been programmed with essentially the core belief about our value and worth that we will carry to the grave if we do not understand it. And it's that core belief that becomes the thing that really stops us from progressing spiritually. In fact, it's that core belief that stops us from entering the house of God, which is this card here, and into the treasury of light. If you don't know what your core belief is around your worth, if you haven't got that clearly articulated, you can't pass the gatekeepers. We'll talk a bit more about that. So, the emperor represents power. He's got his scepter. He's got his shield, and he represents power. And of course, this was very much about the politics that were going on. This is Henry VII, who was the emperor of Germany, not Henry VII in England. This is Henry VII of Germany, who's become the emperor. And he's dealing with Clement V, who's the Pope at the time. And Clement V became probably the first Pope to be completely engrossed in money and the need for wealth. Probably more than any other Pope before him. He became highly oriented and greedy when it came to money. So it's no surprise that the Pope actually represents wealth. We kind of think it represents something else, but in the context of the Cathars, who detested the Pope, they assigned the quality of wealth to him. Love. These are the loves that aren't agape. So these are storge, philia, eros. These are the loves that are less than divine love, that distract us from divine love. And so typically you'll see the fool standing there with eros, a younger woman and an older woman, probably mother, and these are defining these other types of love that seem to be, you know, they're okay, that's something that we should be doing. But Jesus was really clear. He's standing teaching, and his disciples come up, he's in a room, and they said, your mother and your brothers are out here. And he said, who is my mother and who are my brethren? These are my mother and brethren. There's a point in Matthew early on in Matthew and then later on in Matthew, where he says, unless you can totally give up any attachment you have to mother, father, brother, sister, lands, homes, all of those things, you can't become one with me. You won't find everlasting life. Interesting thought. And then finally, the chariot represents success or victory. It's the victor's chariot, having succeeded, won the battle. These were all the 4 things that we found where? On the magician's table. And he's saying all of these things are an illusion, and they are going to absorb your life, your attention. They're going to stop you from being aligned with agape, with divine love. It's either going to be accumulating or trying to survive scarcity of love, of power, of wealth, of success, or being driven to have them, to accumulate them. They're both the same problem, just flip sides of the same coin. And so this becomes the world of illusion. Now it's really interesting that in the world of illusion, if you buy into the world of illusion, you also buy into 3 other things. Justice. I lived in Italy for a year and they had these amazing, has anyone lived in Italy or comes from Italy? They had these amazing